Welcome to a new edition of the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino. On this episode, we talk with author, speaker, and story coach Amy Vogel. She embarked on her storytelling journey at 35, discovering the transformative power of narratives, is the founder of AWV Publishing, and in addition to her latest release, Teleosis, she's authored 2 impactful books. Amy explores the often overlooked member of the Trinity, offering a 30-day journey into deeper understanding of the Holy Spirit. These books reflect Amy's commitment to inspiring healing, hope, and spiritual growth through storytelling. Enjoy this interview. Well, it's great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out. And before we get into your life and your work, I want to know, we're going on a 4-year anniversary of COVID. How did you get through that time period, and how did it change you?
Oh, let's see. How did I get through it? Well, I just did. Like, I got up, and I have 3 kids, and at the time they were all in school and had to do the whole online school thing. And so we just got up and we did it, and we tried to teach them that we were just going to work through this however long it lasted. I did enjoy the quiet, absolutely. But I also had a job with the church at the time, and so we had to make big pivots, and so I was busy there. So I just truthfully just ran with life as quote unquote normal and kept focused on what was happening around me, and and we just did the best we could with what we had at the time, and stayed home.
I understand that for sure. So you are an author, speaker, and story coach, and I want to know ultimately, if we were to break down what you do on a daily basis, I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of 3rd graders at career day, and one of the kids curiously says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
I think for 3rd graders, the easiest answer is I write books. And in their mind, and I have a 5th grader, so this isn't a big stretch for me to imagine it. But they're like, "Oh, what kind of books you write? Whole books?" And like, show them the books, and just let them get a tangible feel for what I do all day. And that is, put words on a page. And that seems to be magical to 3rd graders. It seems to be magical to a lot of people. And so it's, that's the easiest way I describe what I do.
So you embarked on your storytelling journey at 35, but before we get to this point of what you're doing now, what did you want to be in the 3rd grade? What was your dream?
Oh, I wanted to be a marine biologist. I wanted to work with dolphins, hands down.
Did you ever get to do any of that?
I actually have swam with dolphins, and it was truthfully a super creepy experience. They are so intelligent. I felt like I was putting my life in an alien's hands. It was a crazy experience, because when you look into their eyes and you see their majestic intelligence, and you're like, we're using them to do tricks? Like, no, this is they could take over if they had feet, they could take over the world.
That's wild. So talk to me a little bit about where you were born and raised, and how you got fascinated with storytelling and writing, and how this ultimately evolved into who you are today.
So I was born in Atlanta, Georgia, and then we moved to a suburb of Houston when I was 8. So it was a place called Clear Lake, and so I've been here ever since. So I ended up going to, went through school in Houston, and then went to Texas A&M, which is about an hour and a half down the road from Houston. Came back and just started working professionally. I eventually got married, and we had the opportunity with my husband he's my ex-husband now, but my husband at the time to work overseas. So we spent the total of 2 years, 2 different trips at being expats, one in Trinidad and one in Italy, and so I got to see the world and in a completely different way, because it's very different to live someplace versus just visit as a tourist. And that got me thinking, I always enjoyed writing. I loved reading, have always loved reading my whole life. And I just got a wild hair one day to start a blog about our experience in Trinidad. And then that eventually evolved into maybe I could write other things, and was heavily involved in the church for a long time. So I wrote devotionals and Bible studies and eventually sermons, and helped other people write their stories. And when I left the ministry, and on the same day, the church that I worked for as a pastor closed down, or it all happened around the same time, I had already published one book. I'd gotten that traditionally published. And so I spent a long time recovering from that burnout, from that craziness because of COVID. We were all burning the candle at both ends, and it eventually took its toll. And so I spent the next 3 or 4 months recovering. And then I thought, well, you know what? Self-publishing is becoming more and more available. I've been speaking for, 4 or 5 years now, even longer than that. And so let me try my hand at running this quote unquote publishing business with me as my only client at the time.
Let me ask you this. What was the first book that you read when you were growing up that really inspired you to get into storytelling?
Oh, I read so many, but the book that has always stayed with me and that I've encouraged all 3 of my daughters to read, so far I'm 1 for 3, but I'm hoping to get 2 for 3 this summer, is Where the Red Fern Grows. That was just such a soul-wrenching journey, such a beautifully told story, and just, I don't know a person who's read that hasn't been affected by that story. So that's probably the strongest memory I have of the story that really ripped my heart open and made it more available for, just for life in general. So
talk to me a little bit about who's been a hero for you in your life.
Oh, let's see. Who's been a hero? I think the first person I would say is my middle daughter, Sophia. She was diagnosed when she was 4. She was diagnosed with pediatric cancer. She had a very rare tumor. And so I was her caregiver. I took her to all the appointments and all the treatments. We went through 11 months of chemo and radiation. And so watching her, even as a little girl, not having, she didn't have a choice. We were going to do this. We were going to do what we needed to do to save her life and to save the parts of her that were affected by this cancer. And just watching her do what she needed to do, even as a 4-year-old, and come out of it whole and healthy on the other side. So I'd definitely say that was my firsthand experience with somebody who really did what they needed to do and has continued to thrive since then. We talk about that a lot too, of, everything she's been through. Yeah, it left a mark on her, but she's even worked through that and come into a place where she's now channeling that. She wants to be a pediatric oncology nurse. And so she wants to help the kids who are going through what she's been through. So,
wow.
I'd definitely start with her. And there's lots of other people. Maya Angelou has been a huge influence as a storyteller and as just a woman in general. Just a woman in this society. I love her work. I love her activism. I love her advocacy and what she's done, what she did in her life, and the legacy she continues to evoke in our cultural consciousness. Let's see. I've got lots of friends who, they've just been through so much. So my heroes tend to be of a more personal nature.
Sure.
So I would just say the women that I'm close to, man, they have been through hell and back. And I walk with them and watch them emerge from it stronger. They go to therapy. They do the healing, the steps to healing. They do the things to take care of themselves in the midst of the darkness, and their lives just get brighter. And so women in general, I just love women because we are remarkable.
Absolutely. So let me ask you this. If you can meet one person alive on the planet right now that you find inspirational, who would that be?
Oh, one person alive on the planet. Well, see, the alive is the kicker.
Well, we can open it up. It could be anybody.
I'd have to say, and there's some debate whether or not she was an actual real person, but I've been super fascinated with Mary Magdalene for about the last year and a half. And I know she's not alive, but, I'd love to just sit down with her and talk about what it was like to walk with Jesus, to walk with the apostles, what she went through. There's quite a bit of support for the fact that she was actually married to Jesus. Were they actually married? And, how did that affect her life from there? So, if I could talk to somebody right now, it would be her, Mary Magdalene.
So what's your inspiration? What's the driving force every day for you to get up, to create stories, and to evolve as a person? What is that for you?
I think for me, definitely what it has been for a long time and what it was in my ministry life and now in my professional life, that some would call more ministry oriented, because I definitely want to help people, but I want to help people heal. I want to help people have hope and encourage them. And I want the world to have a vision for something that's better than what we currently have. What we typically currently look at, the news today, is all bad, but there's so much more beyond that. And so my goal in creating stories, my mission is to cast a vision for a life that where all humanity can thrive.
At the end of the day, what's been one of the best responses or fan letters you've gotten from your work?
Well, I'm fairly new to it, but I would say, I'm fairly new to it. So I would definitely say the feedback that I've gotten on the reviews for both the books I released within this last year, so within these last 10 months, a book called Come to Me, which is a devotional, and then a book that is named Teleosis that was released in January of 2024. I think that the way that people describe how I write is really just, it's humbling, and it makes me so grateful, because they talk about how it's not only relatable, but it spurs on their imagination. So whether it's my nonfiction or my fiction, the feedback I get where people are able to imagine something for themselves, that is the power of story. That's the power, the magic of story that changes people's lives and makes them hope, makes them want and desire something better than they currently have. And that's my whole, when I get that kind of feedback, that's what keeps me going for sure.
So of all of the things that you've done up to this point in your life, what are you the proudest of?
Oh gosh, that's really easy. I have 3 daughters. I have 3 daughters in a world that still doesn't know what to do with strong women, and they are all just thriving in their lives. We've been through a lot as a family, but the fact that I have a strong relationship with all 3 of them, they're all very different people. But they're incredible. They're really incredible. They're all smart. They're all extremely clever. They're all funny. They're, physically they're beautiful, but their souls are just good. They just all have such good hearts. And, I just love being a part of their lives.
So speaking of youth, if you had a dream tonight and ran into the 20-year-old version of you, and you could give that young version a piece of advice based on the wisdom you've gained in your life, what advice would you give your young self?
I think I would tell her, alcohol isn't your friend. It's going to get you into a lot of trouble. That would be my first piece of advice to her. But I think I would also tell her to listen to that voice that speaks differently than what everybody else is telling you. I know that I did do that, but it didn't come without a lot of struggle and a lot of just emotional heartburn. Because I didn't know how to listen to my own inner wisdom and intuition. So I would definitely tell her, my 20-year-old Amy self, I would tell her to trust yourself and to trust what you want and not to settle for what everybody else is telling you that you should want.
So at the end of the day, Amy, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, fans, clients, colleagues, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Let's see. It's a good question. I think I am not a super complicated person. I like to think I'm very simple, but that doesn't mean that people should equate my kindness and the way that I that I try to speak and walk gently as weakness. I think I'm a very strong person, a very determined person. I really appreciate that I have learned to like myself, especially within the last 5 or 6 years. It's been a very intense journey to find myself and to grow to really appreciate who I am as a person. I have a really good friend who tells me all the time that I'm easy to love. So I come back to that. I come back to that truth because, as you said, everybody has their own perceptions, their own stories that they have in their mind. And when my friend said that to me, I thought, that's true. I am. I'm really easy to love. I'm really easy to be around. And that's helped form my decisions. It's helped form how I relate to myself for a while now. And so that's who I think I am. I'm pretty easy to love.
Excellent. That's a great answer. So if anyone wants to pick up your writing, learn more about you, reach out to you, anything about your world, where can they go?
So my books are all available on Amazon. Well, my second two books, Teleosis and Come to Me, are. The third book is on my publisher's website. So they can get more information on all of this on my website, which is Amy W, as in water, amywvogel.com.
Excellent. Amy, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for your story.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time. Have a great 2024.
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate being here.
Thanks for tuning in to another famous interview with Joe Dimino, where we cover the world of art, literature, business, spirituality, music, and more from around the globe. Our esteemed theme music was composed and produced by the great E.E. Pointer of Kansas City's River Cow Orchestra. If you want to hear more interviews, visit the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino channel on YouTube. You can also find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.